gosh, it feels like forever since we were here.
Is it 1 day?
I mean, yeah, but we were doing a lot of shows in a row there for a minute there. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the DNVR Nuggets Podcast. Presented as always by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. Use promo code DNVR. Sign up, gamble along with us. We got a good show for you today, guys, as we turn our attention now towards Game 3. It's actually here, or...
No, it's not.
It's not here. Tomorrow night. We've got 24 hours, well, like 30 hours before it's here. I know. Unbelievable how long we've been waiting for this one. But we're going to break it down because there are some interesting things. I'll have an addition to the list. It's being edited as we speak upstairs. It should be out shortly after the show is over, where we can look at some of the adjustments, but we'll talk about them today. We'll look at most likely things to happen, guys. There's some like outlier performances in the series so far for positive and negative. Which ones are more likely to normalize? We'll go through all that. And then you sent us some mailbag questions that we're going to answer. To help me do all of that, I've got Brendan Vogt.
What's up, gang? Doesn't it feel like there are 8 days in this week? This extra day off between these games is throwing my entire kind of like compass off.
I'm so bored of these other series is what it is. Like I have to, like yesterday you're like, all right, there's basketball on.
Yeah.
What do we got? Knicks, Heat.
Well, I mean, that's the Eastern Conference.
I think of Wind every time I watch the East right now because I'm like, wow, this kind of sucks.
Dude.
It always sucks. It always sucks.
Over here, I've got D-Line-Co.
Yeah, my entire like circadian rhythms are thrown off. Like I'm going to sleep when I should be awake. I'm awake when I should be asleep. I don't know what's happening. I literally responded to a message in Slack and then forgot that I sent it. And then later on, I had to ask Kale if I sent it. He said yes.
Oh, well,
and the messenger said I was not coming in.
Oh,
and I came in. So I forgot I sent it.
They're all over the place.
Dude, disaster.
what a pointless day you're having. And then over there, man with a nice haircut, Harrison Wind.
Thank you. Thank you for noticing.
We always notice with
I
you, buddy.
appreciate it.
Hairless wind.
Had to chop some of it off before I go into the climate that is Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh boy.
Are you looking
The
forward to
hellhole?
being in Arizona for a weekend, or are you like...
Not
oh,
really.
Yeah.
Not especially.
The hotel got a pool? Are you going to pull it up?
Go swimming?
I'm sure.
Have you not thought about this if you were going out
It would
there?
be
Wouldn't
the
you be
first
like,
thing I
hold
would
on,
think
is there a
about.
pool? Let me see. Got my
Especially after
trunks.
Jokic mentioned that.
Get my tan on?
Yeah, dude.
I would be
I
looking
would
at
see
You
that.
want to borrow my like really short shorts, Harrison?
I'm good.
I would just see if they had a bar.
That's
They
where you
do
would
have
be?
a bar.
Okay, let's go.
At least my last hotel did.
You ever go to Scottsdale? To me is like hell on earth. The Scottsdale bar scene. I've been there before. It's like, for me personally, everybody has a different thing.
I'm a
on this
little
thing.
above it now. I've outgrown it.
It's just like
There was a time in my life when it was pretty fun.
the ultimate club culture. I'm an old man here. I'm not. This
Yeah.
isn't like.
So am I.
I'm not trying to just shit on Scottsdale, although it's part of it. But 40-year-old.
I'm not going to Scottsdale. I'm going to Phoenix.
But isn't Scottsdale right? It doesn't matter. All right, let's get into these questions here, guys. We'll talk about Game 3 here.
Unless you up my per diem, I'm not going to be going to Scottsdale. I'll say that.
Imagine if we have to get him a clubbing.
Yeah, Wind's going golfing.
We got to get him some.
Look, if you actually want me to do some real NBA reporting, I might require that.
Send you to Cancun.
That's so
You
fun.
want to know what's really going on in Arizona.
They're all down at Scottsdale. All right, let's get into some of these questions. One of my big questions for Game 3, they made a decision to single cover Yoke. And I think you could make an argument from Game 2's inefficient offense that it was the right decision. I think Denver's going to be better. If they were to just run it back, everything we did in Game 2, let's run it back. I think Denver would score at a better rate. Because I think they'll have things built in now for Jamal Murray to shake free and some other stuff. So it's my big question here, and I'll go to you first on this, Harrison. Do you think they're going to try again to just not double Jokic?
Yes. And I think it's actually the right strategy because my take and my read on the Nuggets offense is it's not at its healthiest. It's not operating at peak levels when it's just Jokic scoring 40 and taking, 25, 30 shots. It's the Nuggets offense is at its best when he's scoring like 25 to 35 points and also everybody else is eating. So I think it actually is the right move for the Suns to make Jokic beat them shooting 2-pointers one-on-one, expending his energy that way, and just not let everybody else get going.
All right, I'm going to dissect this. You just said spend his energy that way. Did Jokic use up a lot of energy attacking Ayton?
I mean, more than he would if he was passing.
Well, first of all, I think you run the offense the exact same way. It's just once you get the ball to Jokic, do you help or not? So I'm pushing back on this because I genuinely, don't think Jokic had to go to a lot of energy to score the way he did in that game. It almost becomes easier in some ways because it's like they're not going to double. There was a couple plays in that game where Jokic is backing down and the guys are doing the fake, like, am I going to double? But it was like, no, they're not, because they've been showing their hand all series that they're not. So I don't know. I just don't know if it's actually a lot of energy. The question is, can it be effective? Which you could make an argument one way or the other. You could say, yes, it was, but then you lost. So I don't know.
Game one was let's see if someone else will beat us, and Jamal was torched them.
They still single covered Jokic in game
one. No, I know.
one.
I agree with that, but more of their attention, I think, went to the Jamal half of it. And did they double at the end of game two? Am I having a stroke? I feel like there were a couple examples of them maybe trying it out. So I'm wondering if they're considering it. The thing is that we all know is it's definitely not their preference. Monty would prefer not to double. Jokic would prefer you double him. KCP got hot. At some point, Porter will hit some shots. And I don't think you can rely on Murray going 2 for 15 again. I mean, I think you have to single cover him. And I think that's part of why everyone's readjusting their expectations of how the rest of this series will go.
Yeah. If I am a member of the Suns coaching staff, I'm like, well, okay, we held them to 97 points. Now it's just on us to figure out how to score
for sure
over 100. And so we got to get more scoring off our bench. We only got 4 points from them. We got to bring in TJ Warren. We got to bring in Terrence Ross, but we know we can contain the Denver Nuggets. But really, like, they just, they can't, as Vogt just mentioned, rely or look to Jamal Murray to shoot and miss wide open threes like he was doing, wide open threes from Michael Porter Jr. I mean, it was just an atrocious shoot. I don't know. I mean, I've never quite seen a game where, like, I mean, I know that I have, but just it's such high stakes where just no one could make baskets, wide open baskets. Like
Game 7 against the Jazz. That's what it reminded me of.
For sure. I guess, and I don't know.
Game 7 against the Blazers that first year too.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, typically it's like when the pressure is at its highest, but this wasn't that.
Right.
Like, so it was really bizarre. Yeah. But I imagine they feel like they figured something out, even though I don't agree with them.
I agree that they did not figure something out. But I will say, I always push back on the idea that making Jokic beat you is the better strategy.
I know.
I think what it is limiting Denver's attack is the better strategy. And so if you say let Jokic beat them in the pick and roll, Jokic's going to murder you in the pick and roll. If you're going to put 2 on ball and let him roll to the rim the way Denver's doing to Okogie and Ayton to a lesser degree,
sure.
Jokic, he will score 100 points doing that. So what I think it is they're trying to take Murray out specifically and take the pick and roll out. And then they're forcing Jokic to beat you, but only in the post.
Right.
And so that's the thing is, if they can do it specifically, whittle it down to you're going to just the post option, the elbow and ISO touch option, then okay, yes, you could say it makes sense to then make Jokic win. The question is, they put so much energy into stopping Murray.
I know.
So much that I think it actually cost them a little bit of energy, to be honest.
It cost them a point guard.
Yeah. It cost them a point guard who literally probably wore himself out physically to where he couldn't handle
exactly what happened.
But also, Devin Booker couldn't make shots in the fourth. Maybe that was nerves. Maybe it was this or that. But I do just think that it was like... I think Phoenix has to find the perfect balance of how much energy to put on the defensive end to slow Murray down while still having enough to be able to attack him. And I almost wonder if they overdid it just a hair.
I also think this notion of, well, if you make Jokic beat you on the post one-on-one is it also, for 2 years, it wasn't really one-on-one, right? Even when they weren't doubling, it was like that half help. Like, I'm not really scared of this guy. And this is why Nuggets fans are particularly confident. Nuggets fans, guess what? You strip them all the way down to just Jokic in the post. Nuggets fans feel great about that. You can't help off KCP. You can't help off Michael Porter Jr. Jokic will beat you in the post, And so but you have to acknowledge that the Suns are in pick your poison territory.
Right.
And if there's not... Monty Williams, I don't think has had a great series. I also think there is a ceiling on how much he can do.
Yeah. And I'll say this, Jokic always figures players out over time, but I think that is even condensed in a series where you're literally going up and so his attention's there. he cooked Ayton in game 2. I think if you played that same strategy, he would make game 2 look like game 1.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, I know exactly how to score. The longer the series goes and the more he just gets to ISO
Like, I'm going
Ayton,
this way. No,
I just think he learns his tendencies and sets him up not just on play by play, but even game by game. Like, I'm going to go this way this whole game. And then the next game, I'm going to fake that way. And now I've got him set up. I just think that I don't think they single cover. I think they try to double team a little bit more here. For one, just to give a different look. And so I think it's probably going to be the strategy. The next question for me is, does Okogie start? Because I think that Torrey Craig is by far the more impactful defender on Jamal Murray. He has length. Now, he makes some bozo plays, but Okogie's not giving you a whole lot on offense at all. What did he have, 5 points or something like that?
And the most shameful, terrified.
He's passing up layups.
He was 5 feet to the basket and was like,
By the way, this is on the list, what'll come out later, but him passing up those shots a little bit had to do with Denver's defense. And again, it's like if you forced, Michael Porter to have to beat you through pick and roll players, something like that, where you're forcing a player to score in a way they can, but in a way they never have done all year. It's uncomfortable, and I think that's why Okogie was passing up plays. Is Denver had forced him into being the pick and roll roller, and he's just like, I don't ever do this. Yeah. But nonetheless, do you see them mixing up who guards Jamal to start the game?
If I was them, I would absolutely put Torrey Craig in over Josh Okogie. Josh Okogie has been a disaster. Like, he is, especially when we compare against the first series with Nickeil Alexander-Walker, you really saw an impactful defender on Jamal Murray. He was glued to him. He made Jamal's life hell. Granted, last game, Jamal was like really tired, but it was more like full court press, and Jamal was just kind of expending energy foolishly. But like, Nickeil Alexander-Walker was glued to Jamal Murray. Yeah. Josh Okogie is like all behind it. He's like fine, but he's not like a top tier defender in my eyes on Jamal Murray specifically.
Right. Yep.
Torrey Craig, I think, probably has the ability to, he's rangier.
Yep.
He's quicker a little bit. And
he fights through screens better too.
And he was really impactful against the Clippers shooting threes,
right.
Which, Okogie, like, they're sagging completely off for him. They're not even pretending that he's a threat. So if I was Monty Williams, that would be the first adjustment I made.
I don't think it's going to matter. We're talking about Torrey Craig here.
Yeah. Talk about practice.
I love Torrey. Torrey's one of my guys. Like, I have a ton of respect for Torrey. But
is he that much worse than Nickeil Alexander-Walker?
Nickeil Alexander-Walker is very, very good defender. Very impressive defender. Like, his ability to get through screens, his ability to stay attached, to deny Jamal Murray off the ball. I was pretty blown away by Alexander-Walker in that first round. Torrey Craig, man, come on. Like, we know what Torrey Craig is good at on defense. We know the type of defender he is. I don't think that's a move that's really doing much for Phoenix. I don't.
Good point by the chat too. I guess will campaign start?
Well, that is another question: is who's going to be the starting with Chris Paul out? So they could just go to a no point guard lineup. The thing is, I thought about this. The thing is, are they really going to put that pressure on Booker and KD right out of the start? It could be disastrous.
It could.
If you ask those guys, they have to bring the ball up the court, but also now you have less floor spacing. And I just think that Denver could get off to a good start if that happens. So maybe, honestly, a campaign might be a tough option. I have a question for him later. But
the other thing about Torrey is while he might airball it by 3 feet, I also think he's more likely to hit some of these open shots than
at home, especially.
Than Okogie. I like considerably more so. But there's a thing with Torrey that I think, like, he's a good NBA player. But going back to the Nuggets years, we know well he can do 90% of his job so well, like A+, and then he'll just turn the ball over in crunch time,
right?
And it's horrible, I think with Josh, they like know what they're getting a little bit, and Torrey's kind of a wild card. Having said that, they're down 2-0, so maybe try the wild card.
I think I kind of disagree with you guys about Torrey Craig. I actually think he is closer to Nickeil Alexander-Walker than you guys are saying, just in terms of the way he can guard Murray. Now, Murray put up how many points against Nickeil Alexander-Walker by the end? I do think he solved it, and I think at his best...
They solved it by the end.
And I think at his best, Murray just needs to like be in have his lungs under him a little bit more, his legs under him a little bit more. And some of this was, I think he wore himself down. Michael Malone, by the way, in his media availability yesterday referenced it. He said, if you watch the beginning of that game, they were trying to pressure him. They were trying to make him work. But then on the other end, Murray's full court pressing Chris Paul, and Murray's running around. And he thinks that Murray, you said this earlier, but Murray might have worn himself out a little bit, leaned into the punch, so to speak. And so maybe there's a smarter game plan there. I just think Torrey does a better job than Okogie, and I think Torrey is probably closer to Nickeil Alexander-Walker anyway. So if I were them, it's a no-brainer. I would go to Torrey Craig and just try to mirror Murray's minutes until he fouls out, which he inevitably will do.
But if he hits 4 threes, I would just want you guys to know I'm going to be even more annoying to watch the game with.
That's the thing about Torrey is he does get hot sometimes, and then he's just like really hot.
Sometimes he's doing a lot of work there.
Does anyone new play for the Suns in this game? They've actually gone through an enormous amount of players.
They have.
They've actually tried a lot. I think it might be more than that, though.
Is it?
Yeah, I think it's more than 11.
Jesus.
I think the only guy we know for sure that isn't going to play is Landry Shamet. I think he's just done.
I think it's hilarious that Landry Shamet is the scapegoat a little bit on this. Like, he is bad.
Did you watch game 1?
Yeah, but I watched campaign in game 2. Also terrible. I watched Ish Wainwright.
And
this is my point. I think campaign might have been worse than Shamet, or at least as bad.
Shamet was the only reason that Christmas game was even close. He was incredible.
He gets hot. He
got so hot.
He gets hot 1 out of every 5.
I just mean
in the playoffs against Denver, if Shamet's on the floor, they're scoring.
Yeah. Murray. That's how do you get Murray going? That's
exactly. If the Suns want to bait Jamal Murray into another 40-point game, play Landry Shamet.
And that's where.
But is campaign any different?
Probably not.
No, but campaign is like a ball handler, which they need now.
They kind of need.
Shamet, I understand though. The Suns are looking at it like we should get 3-point shooters on the floor. Who are their 3-point shooters? Lee and Shamet. Who can they not guard? Jamal Murray. Game 3, a lot of this could look different. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. But people were excited for this from the Denver side for basketball reasons. The narrative is fun. We're excited about that. But when you look at this matchup, I know this is the Denver podcast. We sound a little homery, but as you go through it, there are a lot of things where you're like, that's advantage Denver. That's advantage Denver. These Suns are limited, man, in the adjustments.
Sound homery. They're up 2-0 with 40-point differential.
I'm just saying, I also think we're right. That's all I'm saying.
That's like when Big Waz was on, he was like, "Oh, I'm looking like a genius." And for us, if we say these things, we're homers.
Right.
We're saying the same things. It's just we happen to be covering a team that is true for.
I do think, though, you got Ross, Warren. I mean, there are more guys they can try out, and part of me
Terrence Ross and TJ Warren will play.
So you think they will play?
Definitely.
Man, this is wild if they're really going this deep into the bench. Those guys are good, and I actually think it makes sense to give them a shot.
Wild that
but at the same time, can you imagine if by game 3, Denver had played literally all of their 15 players? Can you imagine if we're already to the Vlatko, Peyton Watson, DeAndre Jordan, Thomas Bryant? We're like, all right, can Thomas Bryant get some rebounds out there, guys? Like, we need the answers here.
Yeah. No, TJ Warren might be the equivalent of us talking ourselves into Reggie Jackson.
Yeah.
I think that's the equivalent.
Hey, man, he is instant offense.
Fellas, we did this for 2 years.
He's had big moments in the playoffs before.
It's not a hypothetical. We're like,
Mr. March or Mr. May.
Get Austin Rivers on the floor.
June.
This is just quickly, everybody's like, I've listened to a lot of talks surrounding the series so far, and people are like, Chris Paul slowed down before he was able to really pick them apart in that mid-range. He had his spot he would get to, and it's like he could do that not because Jokic was sagging off, it was because he was being guarded by Facu, who would just get erased on a screen, and then he would just roam free. And now when you watch Chris Paul attempting to cross the middle of the court, there's somebody touching him. It's Jamal Murray, or it's whatever.
I think it's even more, though, because he got to take one half of the game off.
Yeah.
He just never had to guard anyone. So he just got down there, caught his breath, went there, got a screen and roll, pulled up to the mid-range.
It was like, wow, I can't believe they can't do that anymore. It's like, it's not just because he's older. There's a defender on him.
Right.
There's a defender on him.
I love Austin Rivers.
Is anybody for the Nuggets? Do you think Malone changes anything up? Is there any chance?
Hell no.
Malone has, if it ain't broke, don't fix it above his bedroom doorway, and he slaps it on his way out every morning.
Like a country sign in a kitchen.
Yeah.
Bless this mess.
All right. Does Murray have a bounce back game against the ball pressure? I think they're going to, that part of their game plan, I do think, as long as they don't wear themselves out. I do think the key for him is pressure him. Does he get it going?
Jamal?
In game 3?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. And I think as much as the Suns made necessary adjustment, and to their credit, I think executed it, I agree with Jamal that there are 4 to 5 shots in that game that he should hit. I know he was tired. They did that to him on purpose. We talk about the rest for the Suns here. It's going to matter for Murray and Jokic as well. Obviously, it matters for any 7-footer. We've seen it time and time again in the playoffs. This stuff is exhausting for them, especially with the modern defense any big has to play, especially for a guy like Jokic. But Murray, too, who was exhausted very quickly in game 2, gets to come down from altitude, gets 3 days off. Does he have his legs underneath him for those open jumpers? And if the Suns do open up their rotation again and put some of those guys on the floor, across 82 games, there's a lot of Jamal dribbling that you're like, look, we don't need this. But there's a time in the playoffs where if Landry Shamet is guarding Jamal Murray, dice him up, put 2 points on the board, and let's keep it moving.
Yeah, this game's going to look a lot more like game 1 than game 2. And the biggest reason why is because of the rest. Like, 3 days off is a really long time in between playoff games.
I'm more tired, just by the way.
Yeah. And the Nuggets are coming down from altitude. I just think with the rest, and it helps Jamal Murray especially because, like, he's a little banged up. Like, he just needs the days to get off his feet. I just think, like, the Nuggets and Suns are going to look more like they did in game 1 than game 2.
I'm curious to see how they, like I understand that
We're
logic.
such Murray skeptics sometimes.
Well, I just it playoff games don't seem to get more and more free flowing. They seem to get like more and more gummed up.
But there's been such a long break; it almost feels like we're entering a new series.
I actually I couldn't agree with any more.
Yeah.
This truly feels like the break in between series. It feels like
Yep.
like the job's done. Job not done.
Job not done, man. It is the same length, I think, as the previous break. So
Yes.
it might have been longer, actually.
Yes.
Let's take a break. On the other side, we're going to look at some either-or scenarios and ask which one is more likely.
Guys, Athletic Greens. Athletic Greens. I use it literally every day. I started taking Athletic Greens because I just wanted better gut health, more energy, wanted an optimized immune system. You get all of that with Athletic Greens. With 1 scoop of Athletic Greens, you absorb 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. It's lifestyle-friendly, diet-friendly, whatever diet you're on, keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free.
I'm on a candy diet.
Athletic Greens works with that as
Let's
well.
go.
Any diet. So right now it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. Athletic Greens, 1 scoop of Athletic Greens and a cup of water every single day to start your day. That's all you need. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. Go to athleticgreens.com/nuggets, athleticgreens.com/nuggets to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.
Let's go.
Also, at Fubo TV, you can watch 140 plus live channels of sports, shows, movies, and news. Stream live TV from any device. You can start watching Fubo immediately. Sign up, FuboTV.com/DNVR. You can scan that QR code right there on the screen. Sign up, boom. You can get Fubo hooked up right now. Start watching immediately. You also get 1,000 hours of cloud DVR included at no extra cost with Fubo TV. Nuggets playoff games. The game tomorrow is on ESPN. Game 3, you can watch that on Fubo TV. PGA Championship, French Open, UFC 288, F1, any sporting event you want on Fubo TV. www.FuboTV.com/DNVR. Sign up at that link, get 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro. So all those really cool stuff that you get with Fubo TV, you get even more with Fubo Pro. FuboTV.com/DNVR. Get 15% off your first month of Fubo Pro.
Let's go.
Alrighty, let's go. Back here, segment 2, DNVR Nuggets Podcast. We're previewing game 3 between the Nuggets and the Suns. Let's play a little game. More likely. What's more likely, D-Line? Denver makes more adjustments in game 3? Or Phoenix makes more adjustments in game 3?
Oh, this is a lock. Phoenix absolutely makes more adjustments. First off, they have to. I don't know what. I mean, I don't think there'll be any adjustments made by Denver.
Oh, I do.
Well,
Well, because they're pressuring Jamal. I think that it's like Denver survived. I don't want to call it a gimmick. I just think they survived a they were able to take off a major part of Denver's attack. They were able to cancel it out. Now it's like, well, how do we mitigate that? And by the way, I think the Suns compromised themselves quite a bit by doing that.
They
it
absolutely
worked,
did.
but that's why I think for me it might be Denver. But
It's
I also think the Suns are kind of out, man. They're kind of.
There could be small adjustments, I suppose, but I think big adjustments are coming from the Phoenix Suns. They have to. They've had no success so far. Nothing is really truly working. Their ultimate premise of just having two high-end, top-scoring guys being enough to carry the rest of the team on their back is false. And so they have to figure out, okay, how can we activate our bench? How can we get scoring from other people? How do we now have to change our philosophy with no Chris Paul in tow? Like, who is going to be our primary ball? I mean, they have
a natural
they have
adjustment.
nothing but adjustments to make. Like nothing they've thrown out has been particularly effective, except for, I guess, pressuring Jamal Murray. But as you mentioned, there was a cost that came with. So
a huge cost.
So Denver, small adjustments. Phoenix, massive adjustments.
Yeah, the big adjustments for Phoenix are in terms of who are we actually playing. Like, who are we playing off the bench? That's where Phoenix is going to adjust. But I don't know if the Suns have a lot of potential game plan adjustments in them.
They're so limited.
Especially without Chris Paul. Like, what can Phoenix really do? Do you think they're suddenly going to come up with, like, a new offense with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker?
Well, when they could play Durant and Booker more, right?
Those two are going to do the same thing that they did in games 1 and 2. Same exact thing.
Yeah, everybody that's watching this that's a basketball person is bemoaning the fact that they don't have a motion offense in Phoenix, that they're just, it's all isolation ball with these two top scorers, which can work for those guys because they are great isolation players.
If they hit a ton of shots, Phoenix can win, but it's not going to be because
the Nuggets are shutting
anything.
Yeah, the Nuggets are shutting down all of the other stuff because it's rudimentary, because they've seen it before. There's no sophistication in their offense because it's 18 games old. There's no like, if they do that, we have to do this, but we'll know because we've seen it and we know instinctually to make this adjustment, to make this read, to back up, whatever. All the stuff that comes with time and reps that they just don't have, so they have to have a much more rudimentary offense and then rely on individual Herculean efforts, which you can't count on with these guys.
I also think that everybody is like upset with the role players. How'd the bench only give us 4 points? Can you believe they really let us down? But I do think there's something too. It's hard to be a role player in a system like that.
Dude, yes.
That's the whole point.
And I think you've seen it kind of with some Luka teams as well. And it's why Jokic is different. And it's than maybe any other superstar. We talked about it with the Greg Anthony point. It's so simple. His teammates get to play basketball. Right. So then when they have to do the little stuff, A, they're in a better headspace, they're more willing, but B, they're comfortable. And sitting on the bench or on the side of the court, standing on the side of the court while Durant and Booker cook, which is admittedly Phoenix's best option. And then it's like, hey man, go hit the biggest shot of the game for us, Denver is fine with any of these guys taking open shots. So many Nuggets teams over the years had those guys on their team. They got to the playoffs and other teams just weren't guarding them. And it was like, man, this is not tenable. Right. And that's where Phoenix is. And if those guys hit some shots and they win game 3, you make them do it again in game 4. And it's like these guys, I think, are probably fine players across 82 seasons, but it's Draymond's thing. There are 16-win players, and Phoenix maybe has 4 of those guys.
Let me ask you, I'll start with you on this one since it's your agenda. Michael Porter's first 4 games of the playoffs, 18 points, 16 points, 25 points, 15 points. Those are numbers we expect from Michael Porter. That's actually right in line with what we expect. 1 25-point game and a bunch of 18s, right there in the teens. Since then, 8, 11, and 5. He's in a little mini slump. So the next most likely is who's more likely to have a above average for them game in game 3, Murray or Porter?
How the Suns guard you? Okay, if the Suns decide to double Jokic, I think we get a Michael Porter game in game 3. I think the ball gets popping. I think he gets those open catch and shoot looks. His first look in the game will hopefully be one of those instead of a dribble long 2. And the thing about Porter is he just needs to see one. So I think if it's there was a lot of Jamal cooking in game 1. There was a lot of Jokic cooking in game 2. We haven't actually seen the ball pop in Denver's ideal fashion. That's when Porter gets involved. Or if he's the only guy on the floor and Jokic and Murray are off of it. So as much as he can be better in these opportunities, this series has not called for a lot of Michael Porter Jr. Defensively, he's been fine. I think if they double Yoke and the ball gets moving, that game is calling for more from Mike and Kentavious, and I think Mike has it in him.
I'd probably say Jamal, just because we've seen it already this series, and I just think what happens when you get further and further into the playoffs, even an offense that can spread it around and get everybody involved, like the Nuggets offense can, even an offense like that just compresses a little bit to Jokic or the Jokic-Murray two-man game. And your role players just don't naturally get as many shots as they might have gotten in round 1. And I think that's a little bit about what's happening to Michael Porter right now. And also we saw at the end of game 2, he's not a lock to be on the floor in fourth quarters anymore. And because of that, I'd have to go with Jamal there.
Yeah, I hope that the Nuggets are planning on trying to get Michael Porter Jr. more involved. Like, I want them to give the Suns a new look of something else that they have to worry about. Like, oh my God, like we shut down Murray. Now we shut down Jokic. Now we got a Jokic, and now we got a Michael Porter Jr. Like, what are we doing here? I mean, Michael Porter Jr. has been on the offensive end, in his terms, like a total non-factor. I mean, he can be dynamic. He should be the third, the third head of the monster. And he just hasn't quite been that for whatever reason. The Suns still live in this world where they think that you can just exploit him defensively. They still call him a pigeon, which is hilarious. They think that you can just...
They do?
Yes. They think that
pigeon.
They're stuck in this world where Michael Porter Jr. is still like heading into a new back surgery, is still very much encumbered by his previous. Like, that's not the story anymore with him. He moves a lot better. Like Brendan says, he's been good on the defensive end.
He has.
So I would like for Michael Porter Jr. to reintroduce himself to the Phoenix Suns. I would like for him to strike fear into their hearts the same way that Jamal Murray has done and now Nikola Jokic has done. Two other players they completely dismissed, and then both of them reminded.
And he has it in him. And that's the thing that's so difficult about being a third option. Sometimes it just stops coming to you.
Yep.
Or you're out of rhythm in the first quarter and they go to the bread and butter. But you have to be ready because a certain matchup, a certain game, a certain possession will still call for you. And I think Porter has demonstrated this season. Believe me, there were lows. And then you go, oh man, is this really like a circle of trust guy? And then boom, 25 points, 10 rebounds. He has this in him. Like we said, defensively, he's been fine. So I'm not worried about Porter. I gave him an F in game 2 because I think mentally he took himself out of that game. But I'm not worried about him. I think he's going to get a chance in this series, and I think he's going to take advantage of it. And Eric, there's a delicious potential timeline here where Nuggets get what they want in game 1. They have to grind for it in game 2. Phoenix thinks they know what they're looking at, and then boom, Porter quarter, and it's like, it's the avalanche. And I think that's still in him. This series has not called for a ton of Porter, but this roster can go a lot of different ways, which is a feature of the roster. And I think before this series is up, we'll see it go, towards Porter.
I think one of the reasons we have Porter quarters, as in like one quarter, is because he is so reliant on, he is the effect of good offense as much as he is the cause. Oftentimes, like, okay, Denver's running good offense, it's popping. Porter's the one that's open on the swing, and then he knocks it down. And I do think Denver gets to that. I'm on the list later on. In the fourth, Denver was able to screen for Murray more. Murray was running off of screens more in the fourth than in the first 3 quarters combined. And when that happened, guess what? KCP hits 3 threes in a row because all of a sudden everybody's in rotation and there's the kick out. I think Denver gets that going a little bit more. I'll say this. Porter can be the most important player in game 3 by knocking down some early shots.
Exactly.
Because when you go into Phoenix, and also there's an irony too, if they're thinking about playing Ross or Warren or more Damian Lee or Shamet or anybody just because they're looking for offense, guess who those guys are guarding on the other end?
Yeah,
Michael Porter. Those guys are barbecue chicken for him if he can step up and make them pay. And there's a chance that it's like, barbecue pigeon. If you ask, like, Who do you expect will make more shots, Terrence Ross or Michael Porter, if they get the same looks?
Yeah, well,
Michael Porter or anybody.
Well, of course, but my point is, it's funny that the irony is that their adjustment to get more shooting on the court is to give a guy that actually might give Denver more shooting on the court as well.
Yeah.
So I expect, for me, I think both guys have a step-up game. I would lean Murray just because I think he has the ball in his hands, and I think he's going to approach this game like he did game one, like just so determined to make this great. But I would not at all be surprised if the ball gets popping in this game and we just keep seeing Michael Porter catching open threes because their defense is not good.
Terrible.
And their rotation game is not good. And Denver didn't get him into rotation. But brings us to this next one, and then we'll take a break. We're going to have I have more of these, so we might have to save some of the mailbag questions for tomorrow's pregame show, which is fine. They have some really good topics there, and we'll get to a couple of them. But do you expect, Harrison, more likely the Nuggets have a defensive game like game 2 or an offensive game like game 1? Meaning they had a 147 offensive rating in game 1, and they had I can't remember, like 74 defensive rating. Both of them are almost impossible, but which one's more likely to replicate in game 3?
I'd say the offensive rating from game 1. With the rest, I think everybody's legs are going to be feeling good on their threes.
That's a good point.
Just the amount of open shots that Denver missed in game 2 was crazy. I don't think Phoenix figured out anything defensively other than just what they did on Jamal Murray. I don't think Jamal Murray is going to have 2 games like that in a row. I think this is going to be just like an offensive explosion that's very similar to what the Nuggets did in game 1.
What do you think, D-Line?
I think I don't know. I want to believe that it's going to be similar to the offense in game 1. I don't know. It's weird to go. It's hard to go on the road. It's hard to be. You can never rely on your role players to be as effective on the road. All this stuff that bears itself out over and over and over in the playoffs. I think it's more likely that they are defensively impactful because they too have figured something out and how to defend the Suns. I'm hoping it's just a more balanced game. It's not a offensive explosion and a defensive clamping. It's sort of just like it looks like Nuggets basketball.
Yeah.
Like it's like a comfortable game is what I'm hoping for.
Game 3 against the Timberwolves, the first game on the road in that series. Michael Porter Jr. 25 points,
The
10
MPJ
of 17
game.
shooting. KCP 3 of 6 from 3. Aaron Gordon 14 and 7. Bruce Brown 12 points on 6 of 8 shooting. Christian Brown 9 points, 4 of 5 shooting.
And there was 2 days off in between that.
Role
one, so it
players
was
played
extra
really
rest.
well on the road in that one.
It's also more time for Malone and his staff. We keep talking about, how will
like
Phoenix
this point.
handle
Great
this.
point.
I mean, Malone's been outcoached Chris Finch. He's outcoaching Monty so far. So if there's more time off for coaching staffs to look at the adjustments in game 2, what worked, what didn't, I say advantage Denver as well. Maybe they're looking at the Jamal Murray tape going, he should have hit that one, he should have hit that one, but XYZ, here's what we could have done to make his job easier. This is a staff. And also, one more point on that. The week off in between the playoffs, the staff did a great job. The players were receptive. The games off between the Wolves and the Suns, the staff did a great job. The players were receptive. They're using this time so far. So I think yes, Durant and Booker get to catch a breath, but so does Denver. And they get to look at this and they get to figure out how to be merciless in game 3.
It's funny. I agree with you, by the way, about Malone out coaching Monte by a lot. I think he's been great in this series, and I think Monte has been he's made a few strange decisions, but this is like Iron Chef, where if you gave one chef an entire pantry of ingredients, like premium ingredients, and then you gave the other guy like a nice steak, some mozzarella cheese, and then like a stick of unsalted butter. Like Monte doesn't have ingredients to cook with, so it's like this is tough to cook something up.
No, it is hilarious. The impact of coaches in the NBA it cannot be overstated and is always overstated.
It's always overstated.
Because it's like we're talking about the literal reigning coach of the year. It's like he's a fool as a coach. But he had players like it's just whatever.
I do like the idea though. I've never watched Iron Chef. Do they do that? Give unbalanced ingredients to the participants?
Yes, they don't give them steak. They give them like squid tentacles. And they're like, good luck.
Okay, and then they have to come up with
And then they
something.
come up with stuff. And you're like, do I want squid tentacles? This looks amazing.
Let's take a break. On the other side, more likely or less likely questions.
Breckenridge Brewery is the official beer of DNVR. Check out the Mile High City Golden Ale from Breck Brew. If you can find it, I've heard it's pretty tough to find these days. But it's in that Nuggets can, that Nuggets logo on it, in that beautiful rainbow skyline box. If you don't know where to get Breck Brew, check out the Breck Brew beer locator on their website, breckbrew.com. Just type in your zip code. That will tell you where you can get Breck Brew closest to you. If you're in the bar, or if you're local, if you're in Denver, stop by the DNVR Bar. We got tons of Breck Brew on tap. If you're not local, don't worry. We got the Breck Brew beer locator at breckbrew.com. Breckenridge Brewery is the official beer of DNVR. Also, make sure to check out IV Nutrition of Wash Park.
Let's go.
We've all been there. We've gotten IVs. We've gotten B12 shots. They take care of you. Super professional. You feel really safe when you're doing it.
Yeah.
They're awesome at what they do. Stop by IV Nutrition's Wash Park location, located at the corner of Alameda and Downing. If you mention DNVR when you come in, you get 50% off your first IV nutritional drip. That's a big discount because these things aren't cheap. They're like the real deal. So you get 50% off your first IV nutritional drip at IV Nutrition at their Wash Park location, corner Alameda and Downing. Again, just mention DNVR. Give them a call, 720-259-4404 for more information. They offer other stuff other than just nutritional drips. They've got wellness blood testing and consultations, intermuscular injections, vitamin formulas, hydration drips, the express lunch drip. So tons of different options. Check out IV Nutrition, located at the corner of Wash Park, Alameda and Downing.
Let's go.
Let's go. Some more fun questions for you guys. More likely, Eric, this is a question for you.
Okay.
Because it requires, I think, emotion and maybe a little arrogance.
And higher intelligence, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's it.
It's more likely this series goes 7 or 4.
4. 4.
Turn it
I think it's
up.
the right answer.
4.
Turn it up.
Listen, I started off, I predicted this was going to be a 7-game series. From what I've seen of the first 2, I am like, I don't see it. I no longer see that. There is a real possibility. Like the Phoenix Suns did not get better in between games 2 and 3. They lost one of their 4 best players.
Yeah.
So I don't know what, like, they are in a very, very precarious position. I think more than likely this thing is a 5 to 6 game series, but I don't think that it's not going 7. I'll say that.
It's not going 7. If Chris Paul was healthy,
They could. I think it's like TBD. Let's wait and see.
Playing a big role for Phoenix, it could. It's not, though, man. Like, this series could go 4, and that is crazy to say.
Crazy.
That is wild.
I hope the Nuggets care about that.
Happen.
I hope the Nuggets like come out of Game 3 with the idea of like, we have a chance here for
Well,
the
it could.
coolest. You know, it would be the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
also-
if I had to bet on one right now, it'd be 5.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it could go 4, and that is wild.
It's also a real basketball point. Again, we all want to talk trash, but Denver's biggest advantage over a Lakers or Golden State team could be how hard either team had to grind to get there, whereas Denver simply did not. Now, they haven't done that part yet, but that's a real opportunity. That's not just about, like, you know, kind of BS media buzzwords like, oh, killer instinct, blah, blah, blah. No, it's, I mean, literally more rest, literally fewer minutes heading into the conference finals. And Denver has never had that luxury before. And there is a brilliant opportunity in front of them.
Oh, yeah, dude. And just from narrative standpoint and just the universe at large, you know, I've heard people saying that, like, you know, they heard Nugs in 4 coming from the crowd and, you know, be careful, karma's a bitch. And you're like, what side of karma do you think you're on? You are receiving the karma for which you put out. There's a difference there.
Right. What about this one? More likely KD goes for 40 or Booker goes for 40 in Game 3?
Obviously, it could be either. There's nothing we've seen that suggests it's Kevin Durant. Devin Booker is their best player right now. In my opinion, he's the guy that scares me most, although even that word is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Because I do feel like Denver at least knows what they want to funnel and contain him to. He's going to get it done. But he's their best player. He's the guy that I'm like, oh, he's going to score. And I know it's recency bias. We're coming off of incredible Aaron Gordon performance. I don't think Kevin Durant will shoot that poorly again.
No.
But he's the older player with more injury history. These minutes matter. I don't think it's going to get easier for him the longer the series goes. I think Booker's their best player.
He certainly has been in the playoffs so far.
But what is more like? See, for me, I feel a little bit like Murray, like I do for Murray for Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant had a rough go. The clips for the last 4 days have been about Aaron Gordon shutting him down. I kind of think this is the KD game. Denver can withstand it, but I kind of feel like this is the game KD goes off, home crowd, get off to an early start, maybe try to get a lead going, and then I could just see KD having one of those nights where it's like, oh, you guys all said Aaron Gordon's guarding me, and then he goes for 45.
What was so weird about Kevin Durant's game in Game 2 is that it was so obvious that one of the talking points from the Suns coaching staff was we have to shoot more threes.
Yeah, and
because
he just took
he
a bunch.
Came out gunning from three.
Yeah,
You're like,
so
wait,
many.
Kevin Durant? Like the mid-range assassin himself is now stretching it out to three. And like you could tell that threw him off, it looked like. Like you could tell he was thinking, yo, I gotta shoot threes. And all of a sudden he was like 2 of 8 from three. Then he finished 2 of 12 from three. So I wonder if he just plays more of his classic offensive game in this one.
Yeah, to me, it's like going home actually makes it that Booker wants to rise up, and he is their.
Interesting.
He's their guy. He's going to be more energized by the crowd. The crowd likes KD, obviously, but he's not their guy.
They
yet.
love Booker.
Booker's their guy, and like he's
Armani
going to,
Booker, man.
Yeah, Armani mode is going to be. So I absolutely. I mean, I think the desire is there for KD to, say his piece and show the world and remind blah 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 all that stuff. But I just think that it's there for Booker too, and I just think he wants.
He
the
definitely
intangible stuff.
Booker, I'm with you though that Booker has been by far better than Kevin Durant. Like, and I've been more worried about Booker through the first 2 games. The thing is Booker has played well. I just feel like when you play well, you almost wonder like, okay, what do I need to change though? Because I'm playing well. Do I need to pass more? Do I need to do this or that? Whereas with KD, I just think he's sitting on this for 4 days going, I sucked. I can't wait to get back on the court to show I'm not this bad or whatever.
And Booker could end up being their point guard too.
Might have to be. Might have to be, man.
I get why you would say
In
Durant,
some capacities.
but I just say as far as which guy strikes more fear in me, it's Booker right now.
What's more likely, DeAndre Ayton has an A game or quits on his team?
or has a game.
I mean, the quits on his team factor to me, I just look at players like this and I'm like, man, when it reaches the end, it reaches the end.
I don't even know what an A game looks like for DeAndre Ayton at this point because like
Guards Jokic well. I mean, that's the thing. Like guards Jokic really,
DeAndre
really well.
Ayton, if you just look at the stats, Game 1, 14 points, 7 of 11 shooting, 7 rebounds. Game 2, 14 rebounds, 7 of 10 shooting, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. These have been the emptiest stats of all time, I feel like. Like he has made 0 impact on either game. He can't score on the Nuggets bench. Like Bruce Brown bodied him in the post on a couple possessions in Game 2 when Denver was switching everything with that unit. I don't feel like he's going to be able to defend Jokic well enough to make a huge imprint on the game in that way. He's just been a complete non-factor through 2 games.
Yeah, I keep saying this. I'm so surprised because they start off early in both of these games where DeAndre Ayton rather, not DeAndre Jordan, not part of the series. DeAndre Ayton has been a feature. Like they've looked at him, he's gotten the ball in the post, made the quick turnaround, push, hook shot, did a bunch of those, and it was like, okay, well, this is something. And then it just evaporates, goes away. Like he hasn't touched the ball for the last 20 minutes of every game.
But I'm telling you, this is part of the clutches. They're so predictable because they don't want him shooting those shots. They don't want Okogie shooting those shots. They don't want whoever else it is that's on the court shooting them. And I just think that there's something to, all right, well, they're going to funnel it to Okogie. And it's like, I'm not supposed to shoot this, right? I'm supposed to pass to KD here?
Option C, they quit on DA. Just don't give him the ball. I'm going to, I don't know. Quit on his team is a funny way to frame it. I don't think
we've seen it, man.
I don't think he's having an A game.
So here's the thing. If they get swept or losing 5 in this series, they're going to retool their roster just because when they traded for KD, they knew they had an incomplete roster. Like some of this is expected. their best trade chip is DeAndre Ayton. Contract-wise, talent-wise, you're not going to lose any of the other guys. And if you do, you're not getting a lot of value out of those other guys. Ayton's the one guy that you might be able to bring back. He's gone, man. And I don't think it'll happen in game 3 because it's still a game 3. And I just think it's going to come down to the wire. And if Denver wins, so be it. But game 4, I'm out of here. I'm the scapegoat. The papers are already writing. The bloggers are already social media is already trying to figure out.
He's already picked out his house in Dallas.
It's already on the market in Phoenix.
He's
already
closed on his house in Dallas.
He's closed on it. I just think there's a little bit of a like, man, all these dudes just shit on me. Like, good luck out there. Good luck out there. Next year, you guys will have to answer for being swept. I'm going to be somewhere else. Nobody's going to be asking me about what it was like. They're going to be asking you.
Go to Dallas.
Go to Dallas. So I just think it's possible.
Going.
Real quick, last one. More likely, Jokic goes for 40 points or 12 assists. For reference, he does have one 39-point game, not a 40, but he has 2 games of 5 assists in this series so far.
Sorry, what was the
40 points or 12 assists for Jokic?
In game 3? I'm going to say 12 assists.
Ooh, that feels like the spicier take.
It does. But we already saw the Jokic masterpiece in single cover. Good luck. Not going to work. You've talked me into maybe Phoenix trying the double. And I think there's this whole thing where Denver's sitting up 2-0, liking what they're looking at, and also thinking we haven't really gotten to do what we prefer to do. And if you send the double, I think that's what Denver prefers to do.
The thing is, they're not good at rotating. They're not good at defense. They don't have defensive chemistry. They haven't been together. They don't have defensive personnel. He's going to
pick them apart.
So I do feel like there's this, if you start doubling Jokic, you better be on point because I have a feeling Jokic's going to put up 18 assists. But
do we know how many hockey assists he might get?
He might get some hockey assists. What do you think?
I kind of think it's the assists. I don't know that he'll get 12 assists, but I don't imagine it will be another offensively focused game for Jokic. I don't think he wants to, and I think that there will be adjustments. Whether or not they double him, I don't know. I think that if it is to be followed the way that Denver has gone through this playoffs, it's just like they just beat you a different way every time.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It wasn't like offense came like particularly easy for anyone but Jokic. It's just I'm hoping that everybody else kind of gets going and makes shots, you know?
Yeah. I think it might be 40 points, though. Like, there's this look of aggression in Jokic's eye right now where he just knows nobody can stop him. And he's been so aggressive in these 2 games against Phoenix. I mean, he shot 30 times last game.
I know.
That's a career high. I definitely a playoff career high. I'm pretty sure a regular season career high, too. Like, he hasn't shot fewer than 20 times since game 3 against Minnesota. Like, he is looking to score close to a level that he did, it feels like, last year in the playoffs over these last few games. Like, he has turned scoring mode on, it seems like. So I feel like he's entering every game looking to score 40 right now. Like, that seems like his mindset to me.
They single cover him. I think he goes for 40 again. I think he has an even more dominant game just because this is how it is. If you don't change things up on Jokic.
Plus, he took his bandage off.
Took the bandage off. I just think if you do the same strategy in game 3 as game 2 without any changes, Jokic's like, oh, man, are you kidding me? I was better in the 4th than I was in the first last game. Like, I'm going to be better as this one goes on.
This isn't October. If you single cover me, I'm scoring.
Yeah, exactly. This isn't the preseason where he's making a point.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a break. On the other side, we'll get to a handful of these mailbag questions. We'll save the rest for tomorrow. The pregame show.
I can't wait.
Guys, the American Raptors, they play at Infinity Park. Professional rugby has returned to Rugbytown, USA. Your hometown American Raptors, they've begun their 6-match homestand against the 6 South American rugby teams that make up the brand new Super Rugby Americas competition. If you want to learn more about rugby, check out the DNVR Rugby Podcast. Subscribe to that wherever you get your podcasts from. And tickets for the American Raptors, only $10. Children 12 and under are free. If you're looking for a fun, affordable activity for the fam on a weekend, check out the American Raptors at Infinity Park. They also have their matches shown on ESPN Plus. See you in Rugbytown, USA.
Let's go.
Also, for the summer, it's a beautiful day out. The sun's shining. You need your shady rays.
Oh, man.
Take on the sun with gear that's built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays, they've got you covered. for the warm weather ahead with premium polarized shades at an affordable price. Way more affordable than those really expensive brands that you've probably been wasting money on over the years that break on you. Well, Shady Rays is affordable, and if you lose or break your pair even on day one, Shady Rays will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. So this deal exclusively for our listeners, ShadyRays.com. Use the code DNVR for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try yourself the shades rated 5 stars by 250,000 people.
It's a lot of people.
ShadyRays.com. Use the code DNVR, 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized sunglasses.
Hell yeah.
Alrighty. Last segment here. We have some mailbag questions. Kale, you want to pull these up? Who wants to read these off?
I got it. Oh, yeah. How much do you think Aaron Gordon getting tested by Draymond Green in last year's playoffs? Uh-oh. It's okay, Kel.
That's what it looks like. The red.
Wow.
Getting tested in last year's
shot of Aaron
playoffs has helped him
Gordon's
in this
DNA.
year's playoffs, taking less bad unnecessary shots, making free throws, not looking like he's overthinking the game like he did for stints.
I wouldn't say he's taking less shots. I'd say he's taking fewer bad shots.
Oh, good one. I think it's a great question, though. And I don't know if this is just a real sports writery take or what, but I have long felt that series changed him. He came out of it. You know, I think Draymond is kind of a crazy person, but he's got these pearls of wisdom, and the sort of like certain players are on one side of a fence thing. Are you cut out for the playoffs or not? And I think Gordon entered that series on one side of the fence, and that is very much how Golden State viewed him and defended him. And by the time it was over, he had earned respect as a player who had hopped over and is a 16-win guy. There's a confidence. There's a high IQ thing. He is not Draymond Green, but he is closer to a Draymond player for Denver than Harrison Barnes for Sacramento.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it caused him to go back and declare loudly for everybody that he wanted to be smarter in his approach.
Right.
And not only is he being smarter in the shots he takes and the way he positions himself and how to react to things that are happening on the court, like he also he's not as required in the offense. Like he can pick his spots. Last year, it was like we needed everything out of everybody because we were just diminished everywhere. So I just think that like it's not a direct like in order to beat this team I must change, but he did change, and now he has just more help. So it's just like a more comfortable situation overall for Aaron Gordon.
I like it. I think he's grown a lot, man. I think he's grown a lot. There's an irony too. If we get to the next round, final boss in the West, Draymond Green and the Warriors.
Yep.
Maybe.
Alejandro Botello, the Porter bench in Game 2 was the right call, but was that a product of an off-shooting night for Jamal? Or is Porter not going to see fourth quarter minutes in this series, despite being a great fourth quarter shooter?
I want to take this one on because I think there is an interesting irony to him getting benched. Porter, in my opinion, was benched mostly because Jamal Murray played bad, and they needed another guard out there. And they needed somebody else that could create. And then I do think the defense, and look, it was the right call defensively. They had 14 points. The Suns had 14 points. It was
worked.
right defensively even to go away from Porter. Even if I don't think Porter really it wasn't bad in that game, he just wasn't good. But here's the thing. All year, the Nuggets have asked Porter to be off-ball player. Don't go on ball. I think he has some of that in him. And if they would have given him the rock all year and developed that aspect of their offense, they could have just said, oh, they're going to overload on Murray. Let's run the Jokic-Porter actions. But they don't really have a ton of Jokic-Porter actions. So to me, there's just a little irony to the fact that all year they're like, don't put the ball in his hands. He's an off-ball guy. And then he gets benched because it's like, we need an on-ball guy. Yeah. There's just a little irony to that.
No.
All right. I guess that was it.
That was the perfect answer.
That was it. All right, let's get super chats. We'll save the rest for tomorrow, pregame show.
Hiker, the pod is way too classy to talk about the Kisla article. But that
Are we? Are we
I mean,
too
if
classy?
you want to, I mean, you pay.
we just
pay.
That counts as a solicited.
Oh, I care.
But that right there is why DNVR is so necessary. Nuggets in 5.
Wild, man. Wild. A wild article on multiple levels. But
I'm choosing my own boxers more carefully in the morning. I didn't know that they could make it.
you never
make
know
a
when it's going to
statement.
make it into a Denver Post article. This is the thing I will say about it, though, that's important to me. we've been covering this team faithfully daily since our inception 3.5 years ago. And before that, everyone here, outside of Eric, who was just not doing coverage, but he was still talking about the Nuggets and like celebrating the Nuggets and all these different things. It goes back 8 years. It goes back well before even just DNVR.
yes.
And here's the thing: there's a lot of guys showing up lately, and Kiz covers all sports. I'm not trying to say he doesn't cover the Nuggets. He pops in from time to time. But when the thing about that article was the response to it wasn't Kiz.
Right.
It wasn't the Denver Post. It was Nuggets media.
Right.
It was Nuggets media. This is how they talk about him. Kiz has maybe written 5 articles on the Nuggets this year because he writes about everything. He splits his time. Pops in right at the right moment to go viral. And it's like, look at Nuggets media making dog whistle comments and also talking about a player's choice of underwear. Like taking you inside the locker room, man. There's just some things to me that I would be like, that's a line. And to me, that's the wild thing. And it wasn't, by the way, just Kiz. There was a couple tweets from the last few days that have gone viral that have been like, man, these guys aren't actually covering the Nuggets, but they're the ones that are now the face of Nuggets media, which includes us. And it kind of sucks.
It totally sucks. It's horrible. This is the worst thing is that, like, we've been screaming at this town to care about the Denver Nuggets. And yes, then when now it's time for people to pay attention, that they come in super clumsy, super uninformed, hot takey, just like they don't know what they're talking about. They don't. Like, they just have some idea of basketball. And when you're talking about the Denver Nuggets specifically, they're different than any other team that's played in Denver. They're different than any other team that's maybe played outside of the Spurs, like you always bring up. Like, they're not like other teams that play. And so you don't have a frame of reference for what you're talking about unless you pay attention all the time. It is so irritating.
It also, like, unfortunately, when we say that the MVP conversation turned ugly, we all know what it means. It turned racial. And the part of this about, like, he's just a good old, this, it's like leaning into that.
Yes,
it's leaning into it in a way that's like, gosh dang it, don't make the shoe fit for these falsehoods or whatever. But unfortunately,
terrible.
Gordon Glasner.
The homie.
the homie.
Thanks for the bonus content, boys. And thanks, Adam, for pulling double duty today. Let's go Nuggets. Hey, man, I respect it. Not bonus content. this is what we do, man.
This is literally our job.
This is what we
do. But we
do.
do appreciate it.
Yeah, we do appreciate the appreciation. Laking Ball. All right, first sending prayers to the school in Serbia with innocent kids losing their lives.
Yep.
Big ups, Laking Ball. Appreciate that. And obviously, we talk about Serbia a lot on this show. Belgrade was great to us. Place in our hearts. Our sympathies and thoughts with all of our Serbian brothers and sisters watching.
And I do wonder if that will, affect Nikola in some way. Like, that's a, that's
I
a
mean,
tough
look,
one.
we know what it's like in this country the first time something like that happens. It's shocking. It's horrifying. But thank you for mentioning that. Let's get to the fun part of the chat. All right, Bevo, I was watching my Celtics and was wondering if Jaylen Brown is actually our best player.
Oh boy, Laking Ball.
Dude, this is the ultimate, like, coming together. Like,
Oh boy.
by the end, it's like, oh my God, Laking Ball. Is Laking Ball Vogt? Just this the
I
long
know.
con?
On a serious note, dude, you being such a good sport about this is hilarious. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Wait a
yeah.
second, actually, yeah, here's
And
the alliance.
You really
Here's
want
the
to come
alliance.
together on
Yeah,
something.
Let's get
The
it.
Celtics really welcomed the MVP with a 40-point blowout loss. I got to say, I loved it. I loved every second of it.
There's something very funny about the MVP getting his award on the heels of missing 2 games, but his team winning the playoffs, which is just like unfathomable. I can't picture the Nuggets winning a playoff game without Jokic. And that's no disrespect to
Can't
like,
picture them winning a regular season.
I mean, even the regular season, it's like heroic to this or that. Maybe Denver could do it on a heroic performance. Like Murray, I'm not trying to discount any of the guys because I think there's some really good players on this team. But them winning 2 and then him coming back and immediately not just losing, but having the worst blowout in franchise history in the playoffs is like, oh my God.
It's interesting.
Oh my God. But on the same hand, I want to say this. Tip my hat to Joel Embiid, giving it a go. So many players shut it down too early, play too cautious. He's actually risking something by trying to push through this injury. And I appreciate it, man. I respect the hell out of it. Even if he looks like that poor injury, man, I don't think he looks like he can play.
As much as I despise, hate, just absolutely rebuke every part of the narrative and the conversation that happened this year surrounding the MVP that was so toxic, so damaging, so I don't know, like I lost faith in humanity during it. I respect Joel Embiid. Like, he is the rightful MVP in my eyes because he really wanted to win it. Jokic, in my eyes, really removed himself from the conversation very intentionally when it got so ugly. We felt it here.
Yep.
We listened to it every day. We saw like all of these baseless, weird, like just gross things that were being thrown out. And we saw the one thing we'd never seen Jokic do before, which was respond directly to something that was going around in the media. He heard it. He hated it. We hated it. And I don't, like I would have loved for Jokic to get the recognition of being a 3-time MVP. That obviously is very hallowed ground. But Joel Embiid really wanted to win it. He really played at a very high level. I can't take anything away from the guy. Like, I absolutely respect him. I hate the people that are vocally on his side because of the way that they then would diminish and attack Jokic in ways that were so unfounded and so unfair and so beneath Nikola Jokic. I'm glad that this is over. But listen, congratulations to Joel Embiid. He is a fantastic player.
Yeah, he really is. Can you hit that outro music? Fellas, we made it through.
Oh my God.
Guess what? Tomorrow, game day. Our next show, a pregame show.
I can't wait.
I can't wait either. I'm very excited for it. It's going to be a good time, guys. I will say one last thing here to get you just a little hyped on the way out the door. Nuggets doing practice right now. Walking stick? Talking stick. Damn it. I didn't want to pick
Walking stick is
What is talking stick?
the arena. Talking
arena.
stick
It's called
arena.
Talking Stick?
Yeah, it's
Talking
freaking
Stick
awesome.
Arena.
Talking Stick
It's like a
Arena.
native
It's
name.
one. It's one of the best
I didn't
names I
know
think.
that.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Talking Stick Arena. They're doing practice there right now, and Nikola Jokic was asked if his team can steal a game in Phoenix, and his response: "Why only one?"
Hell yeah.
Hit that like button on the way out.
Let's
See you
go.
tomorrow.
Never told a lie.